And that is a fairly typical policy in a lot of areas like this, where you're trying to encourage people to look at the natural landscape. There is the policy right above that, actually, in both Hopland and Laytonville, talks about consolidating signs, having signs that advertise multiple businesses, trying to get the sign clutter down. So I think that was an issue that came up in both of these places. That's why you see the policy here. You know, we might suggest too that you don't need to make a decision on this now. You can certainly direct us to continue to look at that, and you know, as we mentioned, there's going to be a number of other opportunities for the public, the Planning Commission, and you as a board to look at this and, you know, make decisions. Today was intended more as a introduction and just overview, but we're open to.
So to kind of encapsulate that to Allison, process-wise, this certainly is not the time that we're going to go through policy by policy by policy.
Correct, unless you want to be here through Thursday.
And in your time frame, your work plan, there are spots to do that, several or one, or?
There are actually several. In writing, or I suppose you could call the planning team up, but we prefer stuff in writing. You know, anywhere along now, we're taking input, even though the public review period hasn't formally started. Definitely once it does formally start in September, and then through the end of it in November. So in writing, anywhere along there. In terms of during a meeting, in public testimony, there will be the debut of the draft general plan EIR, which is in September. Mm-hmm. And then in October, there's going to be a Planning Commission meeting and a Board of Supervisors public hearing. Most of the specific comments should be more directed towards, I would think, those meetings in October, the one of the Planning Commission and then the Board public hearing, because that is, in point of fact, what the public hearing is all about, and it will be opened and it will be formal testimony, et cetera. But the public review period actually even extends beyond that. So there will be ample opportunity for this kind of input. My suggestion would be, from the board standpoint, if you wish to vote on a direction or guidance, or this was your comment as a collective body, that would be fine. I would probably stay away from saying, take this specific thing out or add this specific thing. You might want to get more of the public review and know, you know, what this was intended to respond to in the first place. But it's up to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my sentiment, is that we're not here really today to take each item and vote on it. So I mean, it seems that it got into the document, hopefully for good reason. And if we find out later that that's really not a community consensus and it's not going to achieve the goal that community was concerned about, then it could be removed. But
yeah, well, and the value, if I may, of having this document out now is that folks in Laytonville can open the document up, see the Laytonville policies as they're being presented, and they can get back to you folks and the supervisor who represents them in particular, and let you know how they feel about them.
Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Pinchot.
Well, first of all, this agenda item is presented to us as for discussion and possible action, so we have the ability to act upon a motion.
You do.
Secondly, yes, there's been several meetings over the last several years on the general plan updates. The general plan updates are nothing new to any of our communities, and it's pro and con. I'm not here to promote billboards, but actually I believe that it's a violation of our freedom of speech when you put something in there that is totally prohibited. I mean, if a person wants to put some sort of a sign, I mean, the definition of a billboard in itself is a little bit vague. I mean, if somebody want to put a sign on up alongside their business on their own private property that says, "I'm proud to be an American," is that a violation of this general plan wording? I think it probably is. So I don't know how legally you can even put something in here. But that's, Mr. Chairman, I'd like us to act upon this. It's a minor issue. It's a big document. If we're going to get hung up on something like this, I think we're the decision makers, and it's time to vote it up or down. I just stated my concerns, and I'd like the motion to be acted upon.
Okay. All right. There is a motion and a second before us. Very specific on policy CP-L-5, page 26 of the draft general plan. Supervisor Koufax, comments to
Mr. Chairman, I would like to suggest that the maker of the motion withdraw this time. There are a number of things in this document that we could just almost at random turn to a page and find this or that we object to. I think Supervisor Pinches raises a good point. I'd like to have some input from County Council. I think there's a difference between having a sign saying eat at Johnny's hot dog shop and one that says make sure you visit San Simeon anytime you go south of Willits. And I think that's the sort of thing here that we might need some clarification on this. And I would be inclined here to be concerned about the restriction on free speech, the right to signage and so forth. But again, maybe what is problematic about this is it's a little too specific, and we should have a more general frame that would address the whole question of signage in Mendocino County. I don't know, I haven't parsed the document sufficiently at this time to be able to say it does not either implicitly or explicitly go in that direction. But I think we need something that, instead of being restrictive in a particular area, and I appreciate your point of view, I would hate then this to be one where people come in and say, yeah, but what about between milepost 21 and 20 on Mountain View Road? Can we put a billboard there or not? There's nothing that says we can't. And where does that leave us? So I would like that be something we look into in a more general framework with regard to signage, what kind of signs, what kind of places, and so forth. We spent an awful lot of time talking here about the signage at Thurston 6 or 7 years ago. And I don't think it exactly changed the world or changed the atmosphere along Highway 101, but we spent a huge amount of time and annoyed a lot of people in discussing that issue ad infinitum. So I would not want to get into this any more deeply than we are right now.
So your question was to County Council to weigh in, or just to request the maker of the motion to drop this, bring it back at after sufficient?
I just think it's a little too specific at this point in the discussion. We come back and visit it in more global terms if the supervisor is so inclined to allow that.
Two supervisors.
Supervisor Koufax, if you have a concern like in areas in your district, I understand that, and I would be willing under that point. You know, here's another issue. It says billboards. What is the billboard? Billboards tend to be something permanent, but when a new billboard, does that mean when new verbiage goes on the billboard, or is when the whole new structure is tore down and put up? What constitutes a new billboard? You see these permanent billboards all up and down, and they change what they say on them almost weekly or monthly. So what constitutes a mill? You know, these are questions. That's why, you know, the word prohibited is pretty, you know, that's pretty definite. That's not vague at all. It's prohibited, and that's what I have a problem with. If I just don't know how the process, you know, sometimes things take